Guys, we have the 12 at 12 today. Today's August 13th with 12 at 12 with Paul Smith from 12 Rivers Realty. We're going to be talking about a bunch of different stuff today. We're going to be talking about the potential for the Fed lowering interest rates, which seems like that's going to happen. At least if you are if you are monitoring poly market and whatnot, it looks like they are anticipating a interest rate drop. I think they're saying it's going to be somewhere around maybe 75%, somewhere in that range. 75% chance they drop rates. And of course, if that happens, if they drop it a quarter, I think that's probably good. If they drop it a half, I think that might be bad. Reason why I think that might be bad is because if they drop it a half, it lets us know that the market's actually a little bit worse than everything is indicating right now. So we'll be talking about that. So if you guys have any questions about interest rates and how that works, we're going to be talking about different things happening in the Austin market, different things happening around the world, and just overall general conversation about entrepreneurship, business. Talk about some stuff we just did this past weekend. Of course, got the pleasure of doing 3 days in a row, hanging out at the Comedy Mothership, which was phenomenal. Shout out to Donnell Rollins for allowing me to hang out with you guys, and then got to go see Kill Tony on Monday. Can't really talk about who the members or who the guests were, but let's just say it was freaking hilarious. Tony said that it was his top 2 show. Basically, he thought it was the best show aside from another show. So that's pretty great. Can we talk about your Ibiza haircut? Yeah, absolutely. And Toddy, you actually know this because that haircut was on me at a much younger age as a kid. So really, the Ibiza boss haircut, some may say, was actually because he was copying me, because my ears were this big, literally on a 5-year-old's head. And so my mom just wanted to add to my insecurities by giving me a bowl cut, which was totally, I don't know if that was par for the course of the times, but whatever. But shout out, we got Toddy B in the house. We got the Pershing. Guys, if you've never heard of the Pershing, you should go check it out, man. It is one of the vibiest spots in Austin. It's a private membership spot, but they're always doing some great stuff over there. So shout out to Kyle. We got Clarissa in the house. Clarissa, thank you for keeping me on trend as always. That's right, Toddy, trendsetter. That's absolutely right. Yeah. So, guys, I had a client in the office the other day, and I was kind of doing my overall kind of broad, sweeping what's happening in Austin and why I think you should invest here or invest there. And here's why, based on his criteria. And man, it was interesting as we were talking about the whole Samsung and Taylor vibe, and then, Tesla, Liberty Hill. I spoke about that last week. And then as we were looking at Bastrop, and you start to see that there's basically a highway that goes straight from Bastrop up to Taylor. That makes that area pretty attractive because one, of the pricing, and two, its proximity into Austin, right? Into the airport. You're say 20 minutes to Austin, you're 10 minutes to the airport. There's also a 500-acre movie studio, production studio popping off in Bastrop. The homie Zachary Levi has got another, I think, 100 acres that he's doing something out in Bastrop as well, called Wildwood Studios. So there's a lot of cool things happening in Bastrop. And then on top of that, if you think about it, you're now tied into probably like a 20 to 30 minute straight shot drive into Taylor. That's something that some people are obviously they're talking about, but that really could be a sleeper, especially as they widen 290 out towards Bastrop. Basically, it's going to make that time to Bastrop even shorter, and really that's going to add value to the properties on the other side of Bastrop. So think about like your Smithvilles of the world and whatnot. That was just a thought that I had as I was looking at all this different stuff. Is like, man, you've got all these things happening outside of Austin now, right? You have a 1,500-acre development happening in Lockhart, and those that don't know about Lockhart, man, it is popping off. It's really where I think a lot of the creative class of Austin has shifted. And then you just have a $500 million development that was just announced in San Marcos. And so in that San Marcos, New Braunfels area, and I think what you'll start to see is and it's already happening, but you have the almost what I call the DFW occasion of Austin, San Antonio, right? So as you've got a major highway connecting Dallas and Fort Worth, they were wise to go ahead and put the airport in Grapevine, so smack dab in the middle, as that MSA services multiple millions, 10 plus million people. Whereas Austin, San Antonio MSA, if you were to say that was connected, is going to be probably closer to the 5 million when it's all said and done, probably 4.5 million. I've always thought it'd be neat if they put a hotel, yes, but also put an airport in San Marcos, right? So if we had our DFW style airport in San Marcos, where it could be 30-minute drive south, and now you have a super airport versus what we have with Austin, which of course they're widening it, but man, they're basically doubling it. Where we'll have 80 terminals, but that's really not the size that we need as we continue to grow as a city. And obviously, infrastructure is something that's super important. Ease of getting into it, ease of getting out of it, kind of stuff like that. Man, I don't know if you guys, those that follow me on IG or not, but I just did a story post after spending 3 days at the mothership. Everybody thinks they're a comedian, apparently, including myself. And so I did a post on, it's like, man, looking at Austin as the self-proclaimed live music capital of the world, which, I would say musicians now that are here, there's not nearly as much music in Austin as there was. Used to go back in the day, you go down 6th Street and every bar had a live, live act. Really what you're seeing now, though, is a ton of comedy, right? That's going to be, I think, like the Joe Roganification of Austin, right? So during the pandemic or right before, Rogan moved to Austin during the pandemic because of the way Austin, in Texas we were open, and Rogan was doing shows at Vulcan Gas Company. Shout out to Nick, and that was great. And I think over time, really what happened. All right, Toddy, I see you. Toddy says way more music than comedy, for sure, as being the live music capital. And by the way, the voting wasn't even close. It was like 85% of the people said they'd rather have music than comedy. But the crazy thing is, in the comedy world, Austin is becoming the comedy capital of the world. Which is pretty neat, right? So it's just one more kind of feather in our, one more feather in our hat, one more arrow in our quiver of dope things happening in Austin. And what I love about comedy is that comedy really is, if done right, can kind of cleanse the soul, right? Most comedians are that are willing to take it to whatever their opinions are. In my mind, they're the apex predators of the world. They're the people that can go out and talk about the things that the media won't talk about. And as things go, it seems like the media maybe can't talk about. So very interesting there. Shout out to Toddy, of course, being the all-inclusive person he is. He says, not to take away from comedy, but there's room for everyone. And I agree. Shout out, by the way, we got Selma's in the chat. Selma, thanks for hanging out. Guys, by the way, we're not just live on Instagram. We're live on Twitch. We're live on YouTube. We're live on X. And so, yeah, we're going to keep going for about 30 minutes here. We have this is my 12 at 12 Rivers with Paul Smith, and this is an AMA. So if you guys have any questions about anything real estate wise, all that fun stuff. Does back to school affect real estate? That's a great question, Clarissa. It absolutely does. Not only does it affect real estate, it affects traffic. I don't know if you guys noticed, it's taking a little bit longer to get to work because kids are going back to school. And depending on your price point, a lot of times going back to school does absolutely. Oh, shout out to Charlotte. My niece is in the chat. What's up, Charlotte? Hope you're doing well. She's getting ready to attend school in New Orleans, so super stoked for her. Yes, going back to school does affect real estate. And really, if you think about it, most families that are moving because of schools, they're going to try to move. They're going to put something under contract probably April, May, June timeframe. they're going to want to move during the school year and try to really be settled in before the school year starts. So typically you'll see larger homes selling during the summer. A lot of times that's why you see median prices going up in the summer too. It's not necessarily that there's more expensive homes selling, right? Maybe they're bigger homes because they're family homes. Typically more homes do transact during the summer as well. Tyler, what's good, man? Shout out to Tyler coming in from New Hampshire. Hope all is well, dude. Yeah, I think that's one part of it is the median price. Also, there's more people looking to buy during that time frame. Depending on the price point, of course, a lot of folks also go on vacation during summertime. So there can be a little bit of a lull in the luxury market as people are kind of going and trying to escape the heat. But yeah, you'll see as we kind of go now from, let's say, August coming up into Labor Day, it'll be hot. And then your September timeframe, you'll see a little bit of a bump. But then as we get closer to closer to Christmas, things start to die down. And then you see a big pop in December. I would say December is probably the 5th busiest month out of the year. And the reason is there's a lot of folks then that are trying to close, either one, to get into the second half of the school year, or two, a lot of investors looking to invest because they need to place some money at that point. Shout out to Zach in the house, man. Zach, hope all is well, dude. Welcome. Not sure if you're in Miami or not, but let me know when you're going. Would love to go meet some new clients out there. Again, guys, you're tuning in to the 12 at 12 of Paul Smith, local real estate agent, real estate brokerage owner, entrepreneur, restaurateur, all that fun stuff. Selma just asks, is there more or less residential development happening in Central Texas than there was in 2020 to 2021? Oh man, I would say that there's as much development in the way of people trying to plan the development, right? Because you got to understand, most development in the city of Austin or Central Austin takes 4 years to deliver. It takes 2 years to go through the permitting process, and then it takes about 2 years to build it, right? So in 2020 and 2021, that's 2020, early 2020, that's peak pandemic timeframe, right? And so I would say there was not a lot of stuff early part of that was actually being started. I think once people realized that there was, we were going to survive and not have a, zombie COVID apocalypse, they were going to be able to, at that point they were going to start doing development. And as people started moving to Austin, the pre-construction part of the development really sped up. Oh man, Ray, what's up, man? Welcome to the 12 at 12. We got Xander Blunt, by the way, just closed a huge deal. Congratulations, man. A couple different deals he's doing, so I'll let him decide which one that referred to. I think that you're starting to see developers understand that there's a 4-year lookout on all this development. And so, yes, you're starting to see more money freeing up for that. I think the other thing too is that if interest rates, and that's the Fed rate, by the way, as that drops, I think that people are going to be, there's going to be more money coming into the local construction market for sure. Toddy says, where are you taking your cash buyer investors looking for long-term play residential homes under 700,000? Yeah, it's interesting. If I was looking for if I had a cash investor that is looking long-term play residential home under 700, I would probably try to have them break that up into two $350,000 investments. Reason for that is because as you're investing in real estate, typically the higher the price, the further the discrepancy is between the sales price in the actual rental amount. So it's called the gross rent multiplier. And as that number gets further out, it's going to be the less ability to, to break even and or cash flow. It always, guys, remember, you make your money when you buy in real estate, right? So you're going to, whatever you're doing out there, if you're working with a cash buyer, if you're working with a buyer in general, it's going to be one of those things where what's the value add? What's going to bring them to the table that's going to make them money? So to me, I would be looking east. I'd be looking along the 130 corridor right now. Think about you got the development that's happening at Colony Park. It's a 200-acre site that is going to be redeveloped. The company that did the Mueller development has been granted that. So that's dope. That's going to be something that's going to change that area. You've also got Decker Lake redevelopment. So if you're thinking of buying something in that like 300 to 400 range as an investment, really what you're doing is you're betting on stuff that's going to be coming 5 to 10 years from now. You're not really going to be buying in areas that have already gentrified. You're really trying to catch that wave and ride that wave, and kind of get out in front of it at that price point. And really, if you're out in front of that wave, that's where you're going to see some monster appreciation over the next 5 years versus just buying in areas that have already seen that monster appreciation, right? You're trying to kind of get in early enough where then you're able to capture that change of whatever's happening in that sub market. Man, what's up? Man, we got a new follow, by the way, man. Thanks for tuning in. Toddy, I hope that helps, bro. There's some great buys right now out in Austin Colony. Dude, there's some stuff right now in Lockhart that DR Horton and Lennar has, that you could come in and it's cash flowing zero down. And again, we've talked about what's happening in the Lockhart area. Butte Kyle, man, I don't love it as much, bro. Personally, I don't love Butte Kyle as much because it doesn't have the development around it like you have with Tesla being 5 minutes from like that Austin Colony, that 130 area. And if you think about the continued development that's going to happen along 130 all the way now up to 79, right? That's the road that you take to get to Taylor. I really love that area. I really like Lockhart also over Butte and Kyle. And here's why. If you think about following the creative class as a way to create wealth, ultimately at the end of the day, people want to live around cool people, and creatives are cool. Ain't nothing else about it. And so I would say that is one investment strategy. Graham, what's going on, man? Welcome to the 12 at 12 with myself, Paul Smith. This is an AMA. You guys are more than welcome to answer any questions. Zach's going to send us a little zinger here. He says, now that interest rates are quote unquote high, where are you seeing the most action happening in residential real estate? What price point are you seeing a lot of action versus where are you seeing listings sit? Man, again, I think that's going to be very, very price specific, right? If you were to go and look at the Austin MLS area right now, the whole MSA, and you break it down by price, the lower the price point, the less inventory you're going to have. And a lot of that's also going to be equated to, if you think about pricing as like a pyramid, right? In that pyramid, as the price goes up, there's going to be less people that can afford that. So that's the same thought process in this, right? I had read a stat that said if Austin prices were 30% less, we would have 220,000 buyers that would want to buy. And so again, it's just more of that's where the meat and potatoes of the buyers are, kind of based on affordability and everything else. And so there's different ways that you can get to that. One, you can get to that by the seller buying down the rate. What you're seeing a lot with these builders is they're paying significant amounts down in rate. And I'm seeing builders getting rates down to like the low fours, which means that, on a 30-year fixed, if they can get you down to low fours, you probably never refi that again, and be a lot of people envious of you at that point. Where things tend to be sitting is going to be as you're going to be on the higher end of the price point, right? I've got a client right now. We're looking in Westlake and submitted an offer. The agent came back on the seller side and was less than enthused by the price we came in at. But also she had admitted that she hadn't seen comps in the past month, which seems like a pretty big whoops, but whatever there. And ultimately I pulled up and I was like, look, there's 40 active right now in this subsect of Westlake with only 4 pending. So granted, a lot of those do transact off market. However, if you're a buyer and you're looking, there's going to be a lot more things to look at that price point than at the lower price point. Either way right now, guys, so it's still, I'm not going to say that it's an extreme buyer's market. It's definitely not an extreme seller's market. I think that each market is going to be different based on price point and where it is specifically. There are definitely some markets that are very, very seller oriented, based on price point and based on where it is. And then there are other markets where it's going the other way, where the buyer has the upper hand. Either way, though, I think it's important not just to go into every opportunity as like, oh, it's just this or it's just that. I think it's really important to kind of know what's going on at that point. Shout out to Krista. Hope you've been well. It's been a minute. Again, Toddy, thanks for the question. Zach, I hope that helped, bro. Oh, shout out. We got Denise in the house, our resident real estate expert, at least resident at my house, as she's constantly giving me real estate tips and really just keeping me at the forefront of what's happening in the real estate world. I mean, look, she, really, how I've gained all this knowledge is by listening to my wife talk about real estate all the time to all of her friends. And I'm like, wow, that's a great idea. And so then I go actually put that on social media, and then somehow we make money. So it works out really well. So shout out to Denise for keeping us educated. Hit me with "Hey Paul" all caps. I don't know if that means I'm in trouble or not, but we'll see when I get home. Either way, thanks for tuning in. But we all know that Denise is the brains behind it all. And I can't even call myself LeBron. I can just call myself here. Here we are. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. We got the 12 at 12 with Paul Smith. Some other things we're going to talk about today. Clarissa, what are we going to talk about? What do we got going on over there? Back to school. We hit up back to school. Man, did you guys see that the Denise is the best part of this live? Of course she is. Of course she is. Always. That's why we actually pay her to be in here. So it's great. Guys, I don't know if you know this, but the water line just topped out. So the water line is a 74-story building built by Kairoy, which is a local company. They did 6th and Guad. They're also doing project out off of Bolm Road, which is going to be really dope. Kind of the first of its kind in that area. And so that is a 1,025-foot building that is now the largest residential building in the South, which is dope. And so that is now an Austin claim to fame. There was actually another building that was built that was going to be even higher than that, taller than that. However, they hit the brakes, and I think it's going to be half that now. So, hey, Stephen, thanks for tuning in. Preach. Oh, okay. Now back and forth. Those that don't know that aren't on Instagram currently, because we are live on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, all that stuff. Basically, my wife and my niece are now kind of going back and forth on some love each other fest while bashing me. So that's totally fine, guys. I'm here. Appreciate that. Just remember who got you the really cool kicks. Okay, that was me, not her. Always mind you. Shout out to Kelly. Kelly, thanks for tuning in as well. Yeah, somebody just recently asked me, do we think that the Austin real estate market has bottomed, or do we think it's a good time to invest in real estate? And, of course, my answer always is going to be yes. And here's why, right? I think it's a good time to invest in real estate. Oh, look, now they're shooting emojis back and forth. This is lovely. Charlotte, I got some great emojis too, Charlotte. Don't make me come at you. I think it's good to invest because there's opportunities right now. And as long as you're doing your due diligence to find these opportunities, I think that's where you can make a lot of money. I think that you can really, really capitalize on distress and duress. Folks that are either in distress or under duress, right? Those are two ways that you can make money in real estate, and finding people that are in those situations. Whether a market's moving up or moving down, you have to be able to identify those opportunities and really come in and capitalize on those opportunities. And so what are some ways to capitalize? One, I would just put it out in the universe first and foremost, right? If this is something that you're at all interested in doing, just throw it out in the universe. I think the universe has a way of bringing things back to us in some way, shape, or form. And so just kind of throwing the idea out there would be the first start. Because what I'd love for you to do at that point is just start to great time to invest. Yep. You don't marry your rate. Yep. Xander, if he was in here, basically, yes, that's absolutely right. You date the rate. You date the rate. You don't date the rate. Pretty close to what you were thinking back there. You don't marry the rate. You're absolutely right. But more importantly, you make your money when you buy. I'm surprised you didn't come with that one, Denise, because the rate, that's subjective, right? That's going to move up. That's going to move down. And if you guys owned real estate during 2008, 2009, as rates had dropped, there was a huge injection What's up, Jamie? Thanks for tuning in, man. As you guys know, if you had real estate in 2008, 2009, when rates were where they're at now, they were at 6, they're at 7. As they dropped interest rates, and as the Fed and the government started doing what's called quantitative easing, which is injecting money into the market, rates dropped significantly. And you had folks that were refining homes that were dropping their payments several $100s a month. And what that does, if you do that and multiply that by however many homes refied, that frees up money that can go into the economy for a myriad of things: investing, spending. Right? We are a consumer based economy, and so a lot of our economy is based on investing and based on people spending money and just kind of keeping keeping liquidity in the market. But yeah, you're right. You don't marry the rate. You're right. You date the rate. You married the house, but even then, assuming you bought it right, you could possibly separate the house and make some money. But again, that's where the importance of buying and making sure that you make money when you buy. That's the important part. You always cash the check when you sell, though. So I think that there's some great opportunities in the market right now, more so than there have been in the past. I think that that will change quickly, specifically if rates drop. I think if we start to see rates in the fives, that puts us at a 10 to 15% more affordable than we're at today. Hey, not like that. Sorry, you said easy now. You know what I meant. That's how you make money. And so, to be able to kind of get in front of that in really in different areas that that you have development that's coming. If you were to drive right now, and I just did this with a client, so this is a great exercise, is to go from downtown and just drive over to Holly Street and then drive north. Right from Holly Street, you've got Cesar Chavez. If you're going up Chacon, you've got Cesar Chavez, and then you get to 7th Street, 6th Street, 7th Street, 11th, 12th, MLK, and you continue to drive north and you go up to 51st Street. As you're driving north, you've got the Mueller development, and you'll start to see how Austin is growing and how it's pushing north from there. And right now, you'll see just south of 51st Street, you're seeing all this new, not just remodels, but you're seeing new construction. And if you go north of 51st Street, you're still seeing remodels. So what that tells me is that that is the next area as Austin appreciates, where you're going to start to see homes that get torn down and then they start to build 2 homes instead of 1 home on 1 lot. And what happens, and the reason why that happens, is because the dirt becomes so valuable compared to the future value that now highest and best use is not a remodeled home. Highest and best use is new development. And really trying to understand kind of where that line is where you can really kind of get out in front of it and make some great money in real estate investment. Maybe we got Stuart Butts in the house. Stuart is my insurance agent. I've got a ton of policies with him. So Stu, thanks for being here. And then I got my sister-in-law, Dina Stork, at the house. So now great. I'm sure it's going to be Dina, Charlotte, and Denise all just kind of bashing me over here, but it's totally okay. Love you guys all the same. Cool. Yep. Family fair going on here. Yeah. So that's where you can really start to make some money and where you can kind of get out in front of it. So I think that 51st Street on the east side right now, if you're going from 35 all the way over to 183, is just north of that, in that like Windsor Park, University Hills area, is a great area to park some money, because you'll start to see those homes, I think probably within the next 3 to 5 years, get torn down and people start to go vertical on them. And obviously some of those lots are a lot bigger too, which is nice. That will enable you to do 3 large homes, obviously with Austin Home 1 initiative that they did 2 years ago with the redevelopment play. And so that enables you to do 3 homes or 2 larger homes. Guys, if you have any other questions about real estate, please hit me up. This is your 12 at 12 with Paul Smith of 12 Rivers. And it looks like that's our time today. But again, thank you all for tuning in. Have a good one. Hit me up throughout the week. I'll talk to you later.